Hello, everyone. You are all welcome to this leadership seminar. So this week is the 4th week. We started with visionary leadership. We also continue with instructional leadership, collaborative leadership, and today we are looking at data-driven leadership. So I welcome all of you to this particular online seminar on leadership. My name still remains Isaac Adekunle Oluwayemi. So I'm the head tech. I'm the head of the head tech GSMAC service. All right. So we move on to this seminar today. What are the objectives that we have? So we expect that at the end of this seminar, all participants should be able to at least understand different types and sources of data. Then they should also be able to design a simple metric, at least metric hierarchy that connects daily activities to strategic outcome. Then we shall also expect participants to read and interpret charts and reports critically and responsibly. We also expect participants to run data-informed meetings, that is, meetings that lead to clear and decision and accountability. Okay? Participants should be able to recognize and overcome resistance to building data-driven culture in their organization. We also expect participants to build leadership behavior that enable a sustainable data-driven culture. They should be able to apply framework and tools to make better decisions with data. We expect you to understand common pitfalls and avoid misusing or misinterpreting data. Then we also expect you to translate insight into action that drives measurable improvements in your results. Okay? And finally, we expect everyone who participates in this program to come into a continuous cycle of learning, measuring, and improving performance. Okay? So our major goal in this seminar is to equip you to turn data into clarity, that is, clarity that will give you confidence to take action and also make decisions that impact your organization and the society at large. So that's what we expect you to do in this seminar. Then let's continue. What do I actually mean by data-driven leadership? Data-driven leadership has to do with practice of systematically using relevant, timely, and trustworthy data to do what? To set direction, that is, to allocate resources and to evaluate performance and improve outcome. It's very important. If you are able to practice this systematically by using data, trustworthy data this time around, not fake one, not the one that is collected in a fraudulent way. So you must learn how to collect authentic data, then use it in a particular time space in order to set direction and allocate resources and also evaluate performance and improve outcome. So, and while still exercising judgment, values, and empathy. So data-driven leadership is not about maybe emotional feeling. It's not about hierarchy. It's not about loudest voice. And it's not about being biased and relying on assumption. Okay? So data-driven leadership has to be based on evidence. Then it must be based on analysis and insight. And it must also show context and judgment. And beside that, it must show value and empathy. And finally, it should be able to show collaborative dialogue. So as good leaders that believe in data-driven leadership, you should be able to use reliable data. That is, you have to gather and analyze relevant and timely, trustworthy data on time. Then you have to learn how to use it to set direction. Then you have to use data to allocate resources and evaluate performance. Okay? Then at the end, you should be able to use the data to improve maybe your expected outcome. So as data-driven leader, you should learn how to ask the right questions, look at the right data, turn data into clear insight, and involve others in interpretation of your data. Then you make confident decisions. Is very essential. Then later you evaluate the performance of the data. Okay, so this thing is not about replacing human judgment with algorithms. No, that's not our intention. It's about reducing reliance on maybe emotional feeling, hierarchy, and loudest voice dynamics. So when we have better evidence with us, then we should make use of data. Having said that, then we move on to data-driven leadership spectrum. So the spectrum is about 5. The first one is data blind, that is has to do with decision based on opinion alone or habit or authority alone. So this kind of leader rely on gut feeling or emotional feeling, past habits, and maybe the way it is always been done. Oh, this is the way I've been doing it. So a very good example is that you just say, oh, I think this will work. So they are not relying on any data. They are just reflecting on the past system that happened. Okay. Then the second spectrum is data awareness. So, and this has to do with occasional use of reports. Data is secondary to them. Okay. They believe in their intuition. So this kind of leader look at data sometimes, but they don't always use them. So a very good example of such kind of leader is that they will just glance at the report and they will dump it. That's data aware leader, but they don't use the data. They are only aware of the existence of data, but they don't use it to make decisions. And the third one is data informed. This kind of leader consult data, but the problem with them is that they use data to inform and challenge their thinking before deciding. Okay, so but they don't really use it the way we want it to be used. So they still own their own judgment call. They don't make sure that their judgment is based on the data. They will ask for data, they will consult the data, and at the end of the day, they will still use their own judgment. So the data shows the trend, so I will do this. Okay, that is the kind of data informed leader. Then the fourth one is the right one, which has to do with data driven leadership that we are talking about. So the data is primary input for defined decision. So they process it consciously, they collect the data, and they analyze it scientifically and act on it based on the data collected. So they use data to build systems and habits to turn data into timely insight and consistent action. So a very good example of this leader is that they process and show that data is important in their organization and they don't joke with it. All right. So like recently that WAEC result has just been released. So a very good data-driven school leader will collect the data of the student performance, use it to evaluate the student's general performance, individual performance, and even the teacher, they will use to evaluate their teacher subject by subject. That's the way it should be. Okay. Then the final one, which is a data-obsessed leader. This one is very risky. Okay. A very good example of this kind of leader is that they cannot allow any other thing to happen. If we can't measure it, then we ignore it. So this kind of leader, they are obsessed with data. So anything they cannot measure, they just ignore it. And it's also very, very dangerous. So they chase number and optimize the wrong things at the expense of judgment and context. So in as much as data is important, we should not just be using numbers to hurt ourselves or use it out of context. Because if the data you are collecting and making judgment upon is not adding value to humanity, then it's of no use. So you must apply your data-informed decision based on the context that will add value to the organization and add values to humanity. Okay, so our goal is to ensure that you use the right data for the right decision at the right time and then for the right reason. Okay, you have to balance data and judgment. It's very important. You cannot just be making judgments that does not rely on data. Neither can you just rely on data alone without balancing the judgment with humanity. Okay, then you focus on outcomes, not vanity. Okay, not just metrics. You focus on the outcome. This outcome, is it moving the organization forward? Does it drive us towards our objectives and the vision of the organization? This is very important. So you must believe that data you are collecting is timely, trustworthy, and transparent. So when you do that, then you are applying data in the right direction. So why does it matter to collect data and to use data-driven approach? So, organizations generate more data than ever before, yet many remains anecdotal, and then competitive advantage increasing belongs to teams that can sense changes faster. So the reality today is that we collect too much data, but most time we still rely on opinion, we still rely on hierarchy and politics, we still rely on our emotional feeling, and some people are still lagging behind in information collection. And it's not supposed to be like that. That is the reality today. So the essence of this seminar is that we must shift from the reality of today to the new advantage of data. Okay, so as a data-driven leader, you should be able to use data well, okay, by sensing changes faster, spot trends, shift, and risk early. You should be able to test idea, then run small experiments, learn and adapt quickly. Then as a data-driven leader, you should be able to scale what works. That is, invest resources where impact is proven. So you must move from insights then to better decision, from better decision to action. So always show that you are a good leader by applying data-driven leadership approach to things. So you all know that data is abundant, then it should be able to give you insight. Then judgment is critical and evidence is very essential. Then leadership skill connects the two together, both evidence and judgment. It connects the two together. So you must be data-driven leader. You must turn your insight into what? Into action. So having said that, we move on to type of data leaders use. What are the types that leaders use? Number one, they use descriptive data, they use diagnosis data, they use predictive data, and they also use prescriptive data. So what do I mean by descriptive data? That is, what happened? They have to get the report, then check the historical KPI, and also check their dashboard properly. So as a good leader, you must use all of them. Okay, so you must understand performance against targets under descriptive data. Then diagnosis data has to do with what exactly happened, what is the root cause analysis, what is the segmentation, what are the cohort views, you must know. So, and a very good example of that is that you must identify drivers and root causes to fix problem. So you should use data to diagnose problem and gain insights on them and use it to solve problem. Then the third type of data is predictive. So, and what predictive data is talking about is that what is likely to happen. And this happens most time when we use machine learning, then you anticipate changes and prepare in advance. Okay, so that is what predictive data is all about. You should be able to forecast, you should be able to maybe take propensity model, you should be able to risk scores so that you use it to anticipate what could happen or what changes needs to be done before it happens. Then the last one is prescriptive data. That is the data we use to determine what should we do now. What are the recommendations? What are the optimization that we need to apply now? So a very good example is that you choose the best action that can maximize impact in the society. Okay, so prescriptive data is all about recommending a very good action that can solve our problem. So great leaders use all 4 types of this sequence perfectly. Okay, they use prescriptive data to understand, and then they use diagnosis data to explain, and then they use predictive data to anticipate, why they use prescriptive data to recommend. That's the way it should happen. Then let's move on to type of data leaders use by source. You know, the other one that we explain is by purpose. If you look at this one, it is by purpose. You can see it here. It is by purpose. Let me highlight it here. So this first one I explained is by purpose. Now, this one is about by source. So how do we gather our data? Operational system. That's the first one. That is our system like customer relation management, CRM, ERP. Then our laptop, manufacturing system, supply chain system. So all the machine we use in our organization, we can also use it to collect data. Then number 2, customer and product analytics. Customer and product analytics. So that is when we get feedback from our customer, then we should be able to use those data effectively, especially from our webs, from our app, from our product usage event, and then support interaction. So these are what we need to collect our data. Then you can also collect financial and commercial data, and this one has to do with number that shows financial transaction, heads, and market performance. Okay, all these kind of data, they are very important. So, and a very good example of them is maybe the cash flow on daily basis, the unit economics dues, and then forecast, budget, and pricing performance. You should be able to collect data in the area of your cash flow and your finance. Then number 4 is people data. So this one has to do with insight about employees and teams. Then you use it ethically and responsibly. Okay, so you should be able to know either your staff are punctual, then you should be able to know their skill set assessment, then you should be able to know how speedy are they to achieve your goal that you set for the organization. Then the 5th one is external data. Information from outside the organization can be a contest sometimes. Okay, so you have to look at market size, you have to look at inflation, you have to look at GDP, you have to look at your competitor prices and new regulations and sentiment trends. Okay, so that is what we mean by external data. And finally, you have to look at qualitative data, and that's what has to do with human insight. Okay, observations and experiences. Then you have to capture them systematically. So a very good example is this customer interview. Okay, and then you have to know their pain points, you have to know their journey map, you have to know the kind of insights that they have about your business. So if you are able to do this, then you are using data correctly. Then let's look at from data to decision now. That is, better decision starts with what? Better questions. You must learn how to frame decision for evidence. The first thing you have to do under this auspice is that what decision are we trying to make before you collect data at all? Ask yourself the right question. What kind of decision that we want to make with this kind of data that we are collecting? Then secondly, by when must it be made? So your data collection must be timely so that it will not be inappropriate for the decision you want to make. Then thirdly, what options are on the table? So you have to list viable alternative options based on the status quo. Okay. Then number 4, what should change our mind? So you must look at the drivers of those data. So what pattern must I see to make my decision? So you should be able to identify the evidence and then threshold that will shift the decision. Then finally, you must know the cost of being wrong in each direction. So you should be able to do that. So the reason why you are collecting data is to make decisions. So always be specific, be timely, and also be conscious of evidence before you make decision. Use a decision brief, then involve stakeholders early to align on context and options, and then you have to start broad, then renewed to the most important questions. Then you make your outcome based on decision. Then let your decision be impactful. Is very important. So having said that, reading and interpreting data responsibly. So you must know that what exactly is being measured and over what. Okay, you must learn how to read and interpret data responsibly as a data-driven leader. Then you should be able to sample the population. So any obvious exclusion, if they are necessary, you apply it. And if they are not necessary, you avoid it. Okay, you must know what should be included in your data and what should be excluded. Then thirdly, you should be able to know that what you are absolutely looking for. Are you looking for absolute numbers, or you are looking for rate or ratio? So you should be able to decide that exactly what you are looking for before collecting your data. Okay, then you should be able to ask yourself, is there a meaningful comparison between this period and the past or the future? You should be able to determine that. Then number 5, you should have to ask yourself, could the apparent pattern be explained by sensationality or mischief or a one-off event? So it depends on the kind of data you are collecting. You should be able to make a decision on that. So you have to check for recurring seasonal effects, then look for mix or channel shifts, or consider promotion and outage if it is a one-off event. All right. So then we move on to number 6, which is what is the practical significance, not just statistical significance. So before you collect your data, you have to know that, oh, why am I collecting data later? Why is it significant to me? Is it very important? Not just collecting data for collecting sake. You have to collect it based on a reasonable judgment. Okay. So why is this matter? Good question prevents fake conclusion. Okay. It prevents misleading stories and also costly mistakes. That is the reason why you must learn how to ask core questions for any chart or report given to you. All right. So common pitfall is that most people confuse correlation with causation. So and what I actually mean by this is that they just confuse data given to them with wrong correlation. That is, they compare two things that are not supposed to be together. Okay, so you have to avoid this kind of pitfall. Another pitfall is that they do what we call shaky picking time. They apply wrong time range or segment that support preferred stories. So some people are biased. They apply data in a biased mind, and that's not the best. So the better approach is that you use appropriate time frame and then disclose your filters. Okay, disclose your segment and choice transparently. That's the way it should be. Then thirdly, some people also ignore base rates and small sample noise. So, and if you do that, you are not applying data correctly. So what you should do is to check sample sizes very well, then apply confidence interval and compare to base rates. That's the way you should do. So anytime you are taking your data, make sure the sample is correct and the rate is also correct. The another pitfall is optimizing a metric that is easy to measure but not aligned with the real goal. Some people just want to collect some data in an easy way, and they will avoid the process that is more difficult to collect more sensitive data. And if you do this, it will hamper the organization. It may not make the organization move forward. So what you need to do is that you focus on the outcome metrics that reflect real value and long-term success. This is very important. Then lastly, another pitfall here is that failing to account for lag between action and outcome is another pitfall. Okay, so and then we expect that the better approach is to understand the typical kind of data you are supposed to collect, and then you pass judgment on them based on the pattern given to you from the data. Okay, having said that, running data informed meeting is the next one. Running data informed meeting. So what we are saying here is that every significant proposal includes one-page evidence summary. So don't just run meeting without asking for data. Okay. Then the second one is dashboard are reviewed live. Owners speak to exception, not every number. Okay. So when the data is given to you, you look at the dashboard because there will be a lot of data given to you. So on the dashboard, you'll be able to find the summary and then compare some parameters together from the data. Then you make your decision. Number 3, dissent based on data is welcome, but dissent based only on preference is challenged. So you have to present data that supports different views before you can make final decision on your data. Then number 4 is action items from data review. Have owners and due dates. Okay, so when you are making the presentation of your data, you must put dates so that the people in the meeting will be able to apply the data on context. Okay, so this is very important, very important, because it will give you insight, then it will also create impact only when action happen. Okay, so having said that, we move on to the next one, which is building a data-driven culture. Building a data-driven culture. The first one is model curiosity. You have to ask, what does the data say? Why is it matter? Okay, it signals that evidence matter more than hierarchy. Ask for data carefully and consciously. Then secondly, reward learning, not just successful outcome. So you celebrate well-run experiments that failed. Anyway, there are times you celebrate it because people put their effort in it. And why is this matter? It encourages smart risk, innovations, and continued improvement. Okay. Then number 3, make metrics visible and own. So you have to avoid private dashboards that only leaders see. So you have to be transparent with your dashboard, and your dashboard should be able to compare many parameters together so that you make informed decision. So use shared dashboard in team spaces. Everyone knows the scores. Everyone knows the data parameter you use. Everyone knows the time when the data is collected, and they will be able to apply the right judgment to it. Then number 4, We are talking about leadership behavior that enable culture now. Number 4, invest in data literacy for the whole team, not only specialists. Teach your team how to value data, teach them how to collect data, teach them how to make decisions based on data. So when you are in a meeting and you are speaking about data, they will value what you are saying perfectly. Then number 4 is to protect time for analysis and reflection. So, and don't use the whole meeting to just to be talking about data, then you have to balance it. Okay, so you have to block recurring time for data analysis and strategic review on the calendar. Okay, so you can take it periodically, but not every meeting you talk about data and why other things are sovereign. Then finally, you hold yourself accountable, okay, to the same metric you set for others. So when you set your metric, don't avoid obeying those metrics by yourself. If you avoid it, it doesn't show that you are a good leader. Okay, you have to lead by example. As a leader, lead by example. Don't set the standard and you avoid it. Then this will definitely weary your team members. So you must learn how to overcome resistance. People don't like data. Most time, people always want to manipulate data or avoid data collection so that they can manipulate things. So, and that's the reason why you must try as much as possible to overcome resistance. Number 1, you have to explain the purpose of mirroring the data. You must explain. Then number 2, you must involve team in choosing and defining the metrics for the data. Number 3, you have to start with metrics. With metrics the team already believe matter most, okay? Because you are working with a team, that is your staff and management members. Number 4, you have to pair quantitative data with qualitative context. So, and finally, you should be able to be transparent with the data about limitations and uncertainty. So it's not all data that can do everything for your organization. There are some that might be limited in one way or the other. Okay? So, but ultimately, you must know that if you rely on data, you should be able to make right decision at the right time if you rely on data that are trustworthy. Okay, so that is the reason. So always educate your team members. Let them know that they don't need to resist data. Explain to them, educate them, and let them make use of data with you. So in this seminar, I've been able to cover how to understand data very well, then how to collect by source, how to collect by purpose. I also discussed about simple and design metrics that we can use. Okay, that's what we have discussed so far in this seminar. So we also talk about from data to decision, and we talk about building data-driven culture. And finally, we talk about overcoming resistance. So when you put all these things together, digital leadership is like a loop. Okay, it's like a loop. You define, you measure, you analyze, then you decide and act on them. So this is the end of today's data-driven seminar. I want to thank every one of you for coming. So don't forget, JSEMank Technology is creating a lot of value impact resources. Okay, we have an open school that earns you certification in the area of technology, IT. We can give you international certification preparation lesson through our app called iLearning. Then beside that, for WAEC and JAMB and maybe school that want to make use of our resources, we are available. We have a lot of resources in English, mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, and even some other commercial, social science, and arts subjects. Okay, we can prepare your students perfectly for WAEC and JAMB through our app. So you can subscribe. You can call my number at any time. Then I will give you audience. All right. We encourage school leaders to make use of our resources. We have computer-based app that can evaluate your students in the school. We also have result processing app that can also help you. And our learning management app is also top-notch. So feel free to call us at any time. We are available. Until we see you again, I remain Isaac Adekunle Oluwayemi. Thank you for coming, and God bless you.